A celebrity is often chronically empty and needs to be filled and filled and filled.
Michael Jackson a été célèbre toute sa vie, mais les pièges de la gloire l'ont mené à sa perte.
He was an addictive personality.
La chirurgie,
It doesn't even look like the same person.
l'attention médiatique
Let's go get a hyperbaric chamber and get a picture of you in it.
et les médicaments.
Michael Jackson was the most epic of drug users.
Le chanteur était prêt à tout pour faire durer son mythe et entretenir son image.
When someone is as wealthy as a Michael Jackson, there are very few people who won't follow his orders.
Et il en a payé le prix.
Michael hired him to give him propofol, but Michael didn't hire him to kill him.
Le 25 juin 2009, le légendaire Michael Jackson doit être emmené d'urgence à l'hôpital. Son cœur a soudainement arrêté de battre.
Yes, sir. I need an ambulance as soon as possible, sir.
We have a gentleman here that needs help and he's not breathing.
Paramedics by their own way there, sir.
Moins de 2 heures plus tard, les médecins constatent le décès du roi de la pop. La vie de Michael Jackson est marquée par le scandale, de son enfance difficile jusqu'à l'époque de ses relations controversées. Et à plusieurs reprises, il fait face à des accusations d'agression sexuelle sur un mineur. Mais un autre scandale ternit l'image du chanteur. En effet, il est prisonnier d'une grave dépendance aux médicaments.
Some people are just natural addicts. They're addicted to whatever it is they're obsessed with. Michael was obsessed with being the biggest star, was obsessed with making the most outrageous headlines. When it came to his drug use and getting what he wanted, he again was an addict.
Si ses problèmes de dépendance lui minent la santé, en revanche, la soif de gloire de Michael Jackson le hisse au sommet du monde. Toutefois, après sa mort, le public découvre la face cachée de cette grande légende.
Underneath the wig, he had, thinning, graying hair. There were cosmetic tattoos. Some black on his scalp to mask the place where the burn had been, and the hair wouldn't grow back. Some black under the eyebrows, some pink, to outline his lips. There were lots of, puncture wounds from his injections. He had very little nose left. The idea of someone walking around and knowing that what people were seeing and what he was on the outside was so different than what he was without the cosmetics, the prosthetics, the wig, and all of that. It just seemed really poignant and sad.
Michael ressent un besoin maladif de modifier son apparence.
He would evolve his appearance through the use of cosmetic and enhancing surgeries that were ultimately done not by doctor's orders but by his sheer desire to want to look different from the person that he grew up being.
Dès l'âge de 6 ans, Michael est le leader des Jackson 5. Même s'il est célèbre, la vie n'est pas facile car il subit les mauvais traitements de son père.
My father, he would tease me about how I looked and he would say, well, you didn't get it from my side of the family. I would just go to the bedroom and cry,
There was underlying jealousy of Michael among the father and the brothers, of course, because they aspired to be great talents. So when they were all confronted with the fact that there is one great talent, there was a resentment, and they could bring him down, I guess, to their level by hurting him. Where he was vulnerable was his appearance.
He basically got called out on his features, on his lips, on his nose. And that led, I believe, to a lifetime of sort of what we call body dysmorphia.
Après avoir été ridiculisé pendant son enfance, Michael Jackson est à jamais marqué. Il ne voit de salut que dans la chirurgie plastique. En 1980, un an après la sortie de son album Off the Wall, il décide de passer à l'acte.
He saw a picture of himself standing next to Diana Ross at some function. He thought, my nose looks so fat compared to hers. So he got it thinner. And I mean, he would actually tell plastic surgeons he wanted to be a male version of Diana Ross.
Michael Jackson was incredibly good looking. He was gorgeous. If everybody thought he was very ugly or something, it might be a little bit easier to understand.
It's the ultimate if only. If only at the time of Off the Wall, he could have enjoyed what he looked like. But he could only see the flaws.
En 1982, quand Michael lance son célèbre album Thriller, on remarque déjà les changements dans son apparence. Le chanteur a subi 2 rhinoplasties et s'est fait blanchir la peau. Mais ce que les fans voient en lui, c'est une vedette avant tout.
During Thriller, the work had been to a point where he actually was a beautiful thing. His skin was lighter and you know, his nose was thinner, but it wasn't so dramatic or disturbing.
2 ans plus tard, Michael est victime d'un accident qui l'incite encore une fois à modifier son apparence. Le 27 janvier 1984, il monte sur la scène de l'Auditorium Shrine à Los Angeles pour se produire devant une immense foule d'admirateurs. Mais une erreur technique survient et le public assiste à un spectacle troublant.
Pepsi wanted to have him in this clean-cut soft drink commercial, doing what he does best, which is perform.
There was a mishap on the set. There was a huge explosion. It was supposed to be just like a spark. And his hair caught on fire. It was big news. It was major news. He was wheeled out on a stretcher, and of course you could still see the sequin hand. The show must go on.
Michael was frightened to death. It was obviously a very, very traumatic experience for him to have been involved in that type of incident.
He was pretty severely burned. His hair never grew back on the small spot where the third-degree burn was. As hypersensitive as he was about his appearance, he actually began wearing wigs.
Michael choisit de cacher les séquelles de sa blessure, mais à la sortie de l'album Bad en 1987, il transforme radicalement son image. L'importance que le chanteur accorde à son apparence a atteint un degré maladif.
It doesn't even look like the same person. The skin tone is completely different, the nose is different, the cheekbones, the hair. You know, it sort of seems like someone who's crying out, like, I'm not happy with the way I look physically, and I'm going to do everything in my power to look as beautiful as my sister Janet. So, yeah, huge transformation.
Au cours des 8 années qui séparent la sortie des albums Off the Wall et Bad, Michael subit 4 rhinoplasties et se fait ajouter une fente au menton. De plus, il a recours au maquillage permanent pour ajouter des lignes noires sous ses yeux et du rose à ses lèvres. Il se fait également amincir la lèvre inférieure et blanchir la peau.
When the Bad album came out, he was now looking like a freak to people because it was obvious. You know, he just kept going.
Mais l'attention médiatique que lui vaut cette transformation ne lui suffit pas. Michael retourne compulsivement sur la table d'opération.
Michael would do it when he was bored. There were nurses of his primary plastic surgeon who testified later that the surgeon, under pressure from others, was bringing Michael in for what was supposed to be plastic surgery, putting him under anesthesia, doing nothing, and then Michael would come out bandaged. But he thought there'd been an adjustment, and you know, and he'd feel a little better for a while.
He was never going to be satisfied because he believes fundamentally that there's something broken about him. When he was young, his family gave him that message. You know, they were punitive of him, they were critical of him, and he never felt like he was good enough.
Au fil du temps, l'apparence de Michael devient de plus en plus troublante.
Michael understood that he'd gone too far. As early as working on Dangerous, he was telling other musicians he knew he'd gone too far with plastic surgery. To some degree, he was trying to fix the fixes. A new tip was inserted in the nose at one point. because you can't keep operating on your flesh before necrosis sets in, and you have to have it removed. It's rotting away.
He'd had up to 8 plastic surgeries on his nose. And the nose that he wanted was impossible. The cartilage could not bear what he wanted to do to it.
Eventually, he was wearing a prosthetic nose. The nose that he had wore, lived with publicly most of the last part of his life was a near replica of the nose of this former child actor named Bobby Driscoll, who was the model for the Disney animated Peter Pan movie.
Le reflet de l'homme qui chante Man in the Mirror ne cesse de changer.
I think the shock for many of us is when you juxtapose those very late pictures with the very early videos. And you realize that the distance between the two is so shocking. He was one of the first to make us aware of addiction to plastic surgery.
Comme beaucoup de gens en proie à une dépendance, Michael est en déni.
I've had no plastic surgery on my face, just my nose. It helped me breathe better.
It's just crazy to think that he would think we would believe that. There's a certain point where a clown is an amusing character. There's a certain point where a clown is a tragic character. And unfortunately, that's what Michael became.
Pendant ce temps, les médias continuent d'alimenter le scandale.
Michael Jackson's longtime dermatologist. Did Michael have an addiction you were aware of?
Michael at one time had an addiction. I told Michael, we have to stop this. I can't deal with this anymore.
Michael Jackson fed the tabloid media with every procedure that he had. Every time he had something nipped or tucked or cut or changed, it was like another month's worth of stories.
Même si Michael Jackson doit faire face à l'obsession des médias pour ses métamorphoses, son besoin d'attention est plus fort que tout.
It was like one of those unhealthy, abusive relationships where you don't want anything to do with the person, but you can't help it. You just feed on it.
It's our sports. It's our modern-day gladiator games, watching celebrities crash and burn.
En 1985, le quotidien britannique The Sun qualifie Michael Jackson de Wacko Jacko. L'excentrique chanteur n'arrivera pas à se débarrasser de ce surnom.
Michael Jackson hated to be called Wacko Jacko, but it was a staple of the media because it defined very much the person that he had become. There were more twists and turns in his life than a Hitchcock thriller. And ultimately, that was manna from heaven for any editor of a magazine or a TV show or a newspaper.
There was this sense that he had made himself ridiculous. I mean, the plastic surgery, the affectations, the masks and the gloves, and it was all so outlandish that I think they were effectively reacting like playground bullies, calling him a freak.
Au début des années 80, Michael entretient encore une bonne relation avec les représentants de la presse. Il va même jusqu'à solliciter leur attention.
The tabloids and all the magazines, all the media in 1984 loved Michael Jackson. He sold magazines like hotcakes. So even the tabloids, The Star, The Inquirer, built up this fame.
Most of his relationship with the tabloid media was through his handlers and advisors. They felt that he hadn't really cracked the tabloid market, and once you're in the tabloids repeatedly, you're the most famous of the famous.
He had become convinced, partially with help from Frank DeLeo, who was then his manager, that this whole Michael Jackson is weird, Michael Jackson is bizarre, Michael Jackson is an extraterrestrial story was really good for him.
I had a long talk with Frank about this. He said, it's all about publicity. So if they want to think he slept in a chamber, he goes, why should we challenge it? It's making news.
And so, they'd start feeding these things. They said, well, let's go get a hyperbaric chamber and get a picture of you in it, and he did that. Michael Jackson's going to buy the Elephant Man's bones. Well, let's go put a bid on the Elephant Man's bones.
Même si Michael devient plus populaire grâce à l'attention des médias, il comprend vite qu'il a créé un monstre indomptable.
It was like a snowball that had just gotten too much momentum, and he couldn't go stand up against it very convincingly because he'd let, you know, the weird, bizarre Michael Jackson image get to such a point. So his protests seemed kind of puny and false.
Michael finit par se plaindre des articles qu'on publie à son sujet. Il juge entre autres que le tabloïd National Examiner va trop loin.
When some story was printed that he and Boy George were having an affair, and he was like denouncing it and demanding, you know, that people recognize that he wasn't gay and this wasn't true, and people were like, well, all you've done is draw attention to this. Boy George is loving it.
Les journalistes ne se lassent pas de parler du roi de la pop et ils n'hésitent pas à publier des propos blessants à son endroit.
I don't watch TV, I don't look at tabloids. I hate tabloids. I think we should have a tabloid burning, just make mountains out of them, just burn it all.
He was deeply wounded by it because he realized people were implying things about him that were getting more and more dark. Once the sexual allegations were made against him, Wacko Jacko really took on a dark tone.
August 17th, the Los Angeles Police Department initiated a criminal investigation of entertainer Michael Jackson.
En 1993 et en 2003, Michael Jackson est accusé d'abus sexuels sur un mineur. Et même quand il est l'objet de scandales graves, le chanteur n'arrive pas à se défaire de l'image excentrique qu'il a cultivée.
I will say that I am particularly upset by the handling of this mass matter by the incredible, terrible mass media. At every opportunity, the media has dissected and manipulated these allegations to reach their own conclusions.
45-year-old man having sleepovers with 9-year-old boys? There's something wrong with that. If the rest of you are afraid to put it out there, be afraid.
I think the media, at the point of his child molestation trials, they were out to get him. They were out to crucify him. They were convinced that there was something not right going on here.
Malgré toutes les attaques, Michael continue d'alimenter les rumeurs.
The most memorable image of the entire trial was when Michael showed up in court, you know, wearing pajamas. It turned into this media frenzy and the emblematic moment of the trial. For those who thought, you know, Wacko Jacko, the pervert, this was like, this is a guy so out of it that he shows up to court in pajamas.
That may have been the most normal thing we've ever seen out of Michael Jackson, him in his pajamas.
Even though he didn't want to be part of what they were doing, it's almost like he got caught up in the madness too.
Même si Michael est innocenté, la façon dont les médias ont traité l'affaire porte plusieurs à croire qu'il est bel et bien coupable d'agressions sexuelles sur des mineurs.
He has a tendency to pick out very vulnerable children.
We know nothing. Maybe the letters say, I love you, get well soon.
It was demented, and it was like a witch hunt. This guy was just nailed to the cross by the media. It's what society does. Someone gets to the top of the ladder and they're proven to be a good person, they work hard, they have a gift, and people are afraid of that gift. So the easiest thing to deal with it is to bring them down to their level.
I think it's our sport. It's our modern-day gladiator games, watching celebrities crash and burn.
Bien que Michael tienne toujours autant à l'attention médiatique, lorsqu'il devient père, il comprend qu'il doit protéger sa famille. Quand il décide de faire porter des masques à ses enfants, les médias n'y voient que la confirmation de leurs soupçons. Michael Jackson a complètement perdu la tête.
The first day of birth, we had covered him. There was like helicopters flying around the hospital.
After a while, it's like he couldn't escape it. He started going around with masks, then he had his children wearing masks. You don't do something like that if you don't want any criticism.
He was, covering his face and his children's faces, and you think, how can that be a way that you want to live? To be literally behind a mask? And how can you have any sense of your own identity in the world if you're hiding all the time?
Comme Michael a du mal à supporter les attaques des journalistes, il sombre dans une nouvelle dépendance. Mais avec l'aide de ses proches, il réussit cette fois à la garder secrète.
He was so much in the public eye. How could he be an addict?
Michael Jackson was the most epic of drug users.
Le 22 décembre 1993, Michael Jackson fait un aveu surprenant lors d'une conférence de presse qu'il donne à son ranch, Neverland.
I remain out of the country undergoing treatment for a dependency on pain medication. This medication was initially prescribed to see the excruciating pain that I was suffering after recent reconstructive surgery on my scalp.
Même si le chanteur continue de se défendre contre les accusations d'abus sexuels sur un mineur, il reconnaît avoir une dépendance aux analgésiques. Jusque-là, ce scandale était demeuré secret. Michael souffre d'une dépendance aux médicaments depuis l'accident qui a eu lieu sur le plateau de la publicité de Pepsi.
When I actually saw the photographs of the post-op condition of his skull, I realized how severe the third-degree burn was. I can imagine, that would have probably been pretty excruciating. So, yeah, he said yes to, painkillers while he was in the hospital, and who wouldn't?
It actually kind of ruined his life to some degree. He started getting very dependent on different prescription drugs and other types of medications that he should not have been using, because after that he just never was the same.
That was his first taste of Demerol and Dilaudid, which are basically synthetic heroin. But he wasn't a drug addict. Because of that, it just opened him up to the idea that, wow, that feels good, and it not only provides relief from my physical pain, I feel some relief from my emotional pain, too.
Même si l'accident remonte à 1984, Michael continue de consommer des médicaments toute sa vie. C'est pour lui la seule façon d'oublier les scandales qui l'affecteront jusqu'à sa mort.
But it wasn't until the Jordan Chandler accusations that he really became a drug addict.
En 1993, lorsque Jordan Chandler accuse Michael Jackson d'abus sexuels, les proches du chanteur le poussent à suivre un programme de désintoxication.
The Jordy Chandler allegations, when that reached him, he began to use constantly, daily, around the clock. It was a situation where some people around him, close to him, Elizabeth Taylor in particular, were trying to get him off the drugs.
I think Janet and her family were trying to run intervention in '93 because he was addicted to the painkillers. I thought, well, that's got to be tragic. You want to get rid of this pain, you want to function normally, but now instead of taking one pill, it takes 10.
La gravité des problèmes de dépendance de Michael fluctue d'une année à l'autre. En 2002, le chanteur accorde une série d'entrevues au journaliste Martin Bashir pour le documentaire Living with Michael Jackson.
Michael decided this was probably a good idea. I want to show the world, that I really am a normal guy, that I'm not this creepy person that everyone is painting me as. What unraveled, however, was the fact that he admitted on camera that he slept with these young boys in his own bed. That became the beginning of the end of the Michael Jackson career. It really brought down this huge castle he had built.
Encore une fois, Michael a recours aux médicaments pour soulager la douleur.
The pain was so enormous, and he just couldn't face what had been done to him. He was so saturated by drugs within days that he literally could not lift a fork or a spoon. I mean, he couldn't feed himself. He was just either unconscious or in a sort of catatonic state that went on for weeks and weeks and weeks.
En février 2003, le documentaire Living with Michael Jackson est diffusé devant plus de 40 millions de téléspectateurs. Peu après, on accuse encore une fois le chanteur d'abus sexuels sur un mineur. Pendant le procès qui s'ensuit, les jurys découvrent que Michael souffre d'une forte dépendance aux médicaments.
The DA presented a ton of evidence about the degree of Michael's drug use and all of these aliases and employees he was using to get drugs. If they had wanted to make a drug case against him, they had a slam dunk.
En 2005, Michael Jackson consomme plus de médicaments que jamais. Mais les membres de son entourage font en sorte que sa dépendance demeure une affaire secrète.
He was so much in the public eye. How could he be an addict? All that money, all those handlers. It becomes your little secret, and the world conspires to help you be able to keep that secret, because ultimately, Michael Jackson was something they were all selling.
When someone is as wealthy or prominent as a Michael Jackson, there are very few people who won't follow his orders.
And he doctor shopped. He developed a network of doctors and pharmacists to supply him these drugs, often using aliases. Michael Jackson was the most epic of drug users.
For people who are high achievers, prescription drugs is a way for them to get some of those same highs and that method of escape that you would from street drugs while feeling somewhat safe about it, because it is prescribed by a doctor. And if you can convince yourself that you have this thing that needs to be treated, then it's okay to use it. But a drug is still a drug, and most of the prescription drugs are based off of street drugs.
Même si Michael réussit à dissimuler sa dépendance pendant des années, ses effets finissent par devenir évidents.
Most journalists had a sense that he had a drug problem. A lot of us had gotten reports of how often he went to see doctors. I also know just from paparazzi who followed him around and tracked him that when he did interact with his fans or sign autographs occasionally, you know, he really wasn't all there, and people noticed it.
Tout comme Michael lui-même, bon nombre de ses fans refusent d'admettre qu'il est malade.
When you dare criticize Michael Jackson, like I did on one particular live television program where I called him a drug addict, I received in the space of 5 minutes 100 abusive tweets from Michael Jackson fans threatening to do all sorts of things to me. They do not believe that whatever is said about Michael Jackson is the truth. And Michael Jackson was a drug addict.
Michael éprouve de plus en plus de douleurs physiques et psychologiques et ses dépendances s'aggravent. Mais il y a autre chose qui pousse le chanteur à chercher des exutoires.
He was a tortured person. I think there were elements of denial of things he felt and things he had done. I'm not saying that those were child molestation, but things that he felt some discomfort with, and those would visit him in the night.
Pour triompher de l'insomnie qui le terrasse depuis des années, Michael abandonne les comprimés en faveur d'une substance beaucoup plus dangereuse. Le propofol, un liquide anesthésiant qui a l'apparence du lait. C'est ce produit qui entraînera la mort du roi de la pop.
He was literally going days without sleeping. So he was desperate to get propofol, which was the one thing he knew would give him his rest.
En mars 2009, Michael Jackson est debout sur scène devant une foule en délire au stade O2 de Londres.
These will be my final show performances in London.
Dès l'âge de 6 ans, Michael Jackson est sous le feu des projecteurs. Après plusieurs décennies de carrière, le roi de la pop demeure l'un des artistes les plus rentables de l'histoire de la musique et il réclame son trône.
I love you.
I think it was probably a combination of wanting to, you know, do that big farewell production, and he needed the money.
His debts had gotten so great and his cash flow so restricted that he and his children were being thrown out of hotels.
There were many factors at play with Michael Jackson and why his fortune evaporated. There was free spending and freewheeling. He had a desire for everything, and what he wanted, he got. 3 or 4 warehouses with 14 or 15 cars. Everything under the sun that you could expect, he bought.
En raison de son mode de vie extravagant et de ses habitudes dépensières, Michael se retrouve dans une situation difficile. Faisant face à une dette énorme, il s'engage à donner 50 spectacles plutôt que 10.
Everyone universally understood that a 50-plus residency was going to be an arduous task for any performer, not the least being a 50-year-old man who hadn't performed for years. That This Is It tour video, the notorious last video of him performing in rehearsals at the Staples Center. He looked emaciated. He was missing a lot of the marks that were required of him in that performance.
From all the things that we'd seen, it seemed to me that he was far too fragile and that it was impossible to imagine that suddenly he was going to be able to do all of these shows night after night after night.
The years of, substance abuse, if you will, had taken a toll on his health.
En dépit de tous les scandales qui ont terni sa réputation au fil des ans, Michael Jackson est plus populaire que jamais.
I've actually lived in London for some years, and when the announcement was made that he was going to be performing at the O2 Arena, everybody went crazy. 1 million tickets were sold as soon as the tickets went on sale.
Pendant qu'il se prépare pour la tournée This Is It, Michael éprouve les effets de sa dangereuse dépendance.
When he would show up at a rehearsal, he was whacked out on drugs. He was thin. He wasn't feeling well. His health wasn't good. And literally, a week before they were supposed to go to London, he was being sent home because he wasn't capable of even doing a rehearsal.
Just as we got to the end of rehearsals, Michael was getting kind of frail, and he fainted on stage. He was not himself, and he was increasingly late to rehearsal. But for me, I just thought he was tired.
Michael est en effet épuisé. De plus, au fil des ans, il a développé une forte accoutumance à la substance dont il a désormais absolument besoin pour dormir.
He was literally going days without sleeping. So he was desperate to get propofol, which was the one thing he knew would give him his rest. Propofol is primarily used for day surgeries because it's got a relatively short-term effect if you don't get too much. You don't remember anything that happened, and you wake up euphoric.
He found a doctor that was willing to give him propofol in the home setting, and that was probably the only criteria.
Michael rencontre le docteur Conrad Murray en 2006. Quelques années plus tard, le docteur Murray devient son médecin personnel pour la tournée This Is It. Cette décision sera au cœur du procès intenté contre AEG, l'entreprise qui organise la tournée.
He was hired to treat Michael Jackson's children for the flu, and apparently one of Michael Jackson's security guards was the son of one of Conrad Murray's patients, and they developed a relationship, and he became his personal doctor, and by May 2009, Conrad Murray signed on for the This Is It tour to be Michael Jackson's personal physician, and he signed on to be paid $150,000 a month.
Michael spoke about how he needed him to be with him for the residency at the O2 Arena. He wanted drugs, particularly propofol.
Comme Michael est de plus en plus dépendant aux médicaments, on se demande s'il sera en mesure de faire la tournée. Mais après la dernière répétition, plus personne ne doute qu'il y arrivera.
That last rehearsal, it was great. He looked pleased with the way things were going. He said, I love you. I said, I love you, Mike. He said, I love you more. It's the last thing he said to me.
He certainly showed on that night every indication that he was still capable of doing it. So Michael comes home at the end of a rehearsal that everyone just thought was transcendent. It encouraged them all to believe this is really going to happen. And Michael himself was really amped by it. The endorphins were flowing. It was especially difficult to get to sleep after that.
Après la répétition, Michael Jackson et ses proches font des choix qui entraîneront l'annulation de la tournée ainsi que la mort du chanteur.
Michael Jackson returned home from the rehearsals at about 1 a.m., and Dr. Conrad Murray shortly thereafter gave him Valium and lorazepam. By 4:30 a.m., Michael Jackson still had not fallen asleep, and he apparently said to Conrad Murray, if I don't get sleep, I can't function. If I can't function, I can't perform. I can't go on my trips. So Conrad Murray gave him another round of drugs, and still at 10 a.m., Michael Jackson complained that he still was not falling asleep. At 10 a.m., he begged Conrad. He said, "Give me the milk. I want the milk. The milk works." Milk being code word for propofol. So at about 10:50, Dr. Conrad Murray injected Michael Jackson with propofol.
Murray was on the phone. The propofol kept flowing, and Michael got a massive overdose of it.
Le docteur Conrad Murray tente de réanimer Michael et de dissimuler les indices qui pourraient l'incriminer. Mais il est trop tard.
My brother, the legendary king of pop, Michael Jackson, passed away on Thursday, June 25th, 2009 at 2:26 p.m.
We were all blindsided. As far back as I can think, Michael was always there. He was there on the radio, he was there on the records, he was there with us in the garage practicing.
You flash back to all the years, you watch Michael laughing, you remember all the food fights he had with his brothers backstage. There was very intimate moments talking to Michael. There's all these things that flash back, and I went, they're gone. Like, that's it.
L'annonce de la mort de Michael Jackson secoue le monde entier. Tout le monde veut savoir ce qui a précipité la fin du roi de la pop.
Michael hired him to give him propofol, but Michael didn't hire him to kill him.
Le 25 juin 2009, le légendaire Michael Jackson succombe à une surdose de médicaments. C'est peut-être la fin du règne du roi de la pop, mais ce n'est que le début du scandale entourant sa mort.
About 4 o'clock this afternoon, the Robbery Homicide Division was notified of this incident and directed by the Chief of Police to come out and handle the death investigation.
Toutes les chaînes de télévision interrompent leur programmation pour annoncer la nouvelle.
Michael Jackson, 50 years old, the king of pop, has died.
Police officers pull up, and I think they are actually securing off the area. Again, at this hour, they are still inside, continuing to conduct their investigation.
I don't think anybody would have believed the magnitude of the global response to Michael's death. It overwhelmed websites all over the world because of the number of hits to find out what was happening. The response was unlike anything that's ever happened in the history of the world.
We love you. Rest in peace, Michael Jackson.
Michael, thank you for the music you gave us.
We focused on the bad things. He was more than that. He was always more than that.
That night, the streets of Hollywood were empty. But occasionally you would hear a Michael Jackson song from someone with their windows down, driving down the street, listening to Beat It or Thriller. And that went on, unabated for days. It was a very, very eerie time.
It didn't totally sink in until I actually went to the funeral, and I felt very uncomfortable at this funeral, if you want to call it a funeral, because it was in a concert hall, and most of the people in there were celebrities and industry people, so it was just weird. It was almost like you were at a concert, except that there was a coffin there.
Ce jour-là, le monde entier pleure la mort de Michael Jackson. Mais le public ignore toujours les circonstances qui ont mené à sa fin hâtive.
It was so surprising to learn that he died because he was taking an anesthetic to go to sleep. I mean, it's just another example of how completely just nonsensical, you know, his day-to-day life was, that he thought that this was okay.
Dès le lendemain de la mort de Michael Jackson, le service de police de Los Angeles entreprend une enquête. On se penche d'abord sur les agissements du Dr. Murray.
The 2.5-hour interview that police conducted with Conrad Murray just 48 hours after Michael Jackson's death really highlighted all of the inconsistencies in his story.
He said a lot of things that didn't really necessarily match up. So my advice is please never talk to the police. It's a bad idea. It never helps. Unless, of course, you actually didn't do it. And then still, probably don't talk to the police.
Le 8 février 2010, Conrad Murray est accusé d'homicide involontaire. Son procès débute le 27 septembre de l'année suivante.
What time did the 911 call come into your station?
12:22.
From the prosecution's point of view, at 11:51, Conrad Murray placed a phone call to one of 3 girlfriends he had talked to that day, and during that phone call at 11:51 was when he realized that Michael Jackson had stopped breathing and attempted to perform CPR and chest compressions and delayed for more than 20 minutes, finally placed the call to 911 at 12:22 p.m.
We have a gentleman here that needs help and he's not breathing.
You know, Michael wasn't coming back around, and by the time the paramedics get there, Michael's past resuscitation.
Conrad Murray's defense claims that he was visually monitoring Michael Jackson in his bedroom that morning, and he was watching him the entire time, except for the 2 minutes that he got up to go to the bathroom. He said Michael Jackson self-administered additional propofol, and that is the reason that he died.
Les jurés sont sceptiques.
As a juror, it just strikes you as wrong that some doctor's going to bring home prohibited drugs by the dozen and start medicating people without proper assistance. It's crazy. You have to be a criminal to do something like that, and that's what the jury found.
Le 7 novembre 2011, le jury se prononce. Conrad Murray est coupable d'homicide involontaire. Malgré une peine de 4 ans, le médecin ne restera que 2 années en prison.
Conrad Murray still does not see anything wrong with his behavior and the way that he treated Michael Jackson.
Une fois le verdict livré, Catherine, la mère de Michael, décide de poursuivre AEG, l'entreprise qui a organisé la tournée This Is It.
The question is, what was Michael Jackson's life worth to his mother? It was worth a lot.
In that trial, the jury had to find that AEG did in fact hire Conrad Murray. They answered yes, unanimously. The problem was the second question, was Dr. Conrad Murray unfit or incompetent for that which he was hired?
Les jurés sont d'avis que le promoteur a bel et bien engagé Conrad Murray, mais ils n'estiment pas que le médecin était inapte à exercer son métier au moment de l'embauche. Après un procès de 5 mois, AEG est jugé non responsable de la mort de Michael Jackson. Le verdict ne plaît pas à tous.
Michael hired him to give him propofol, but Michael didn't hire him to kill him. Michael wasn't suicidal.
There is no doubt in my mind that Michael Jackson is liable for his death. He can't be tried for killing himself. But he was very much a willing participant and perhaps drove Conrad Murray to deliver the drugs. Michael Jackson demanded and got what he wanted.
If Conrad Murray didn't give Michael Jackson the drugs he wanted, he was going to pay someone else to give them to him. Does that make what Conrad did right or correct? No, it doesn't. However, Michael Jackson was going to find a way to get what he wanted one way or another.
Malheureusement, les multiples dépendances du roi de la pop ont eu raison de lui.
Could Michael Jackson's life have ended happily? Tough question. I mean, he was a dedicated father and he did love those kids, and I don't think he wanted, to leave them. But at the same time, he was constantly doing things that took him to the edge of self-destruction.
He was an addictive personality. And Michael Jackson was a victim as well. Michael felt this pressure upon him at all times to take care of his brothers and sisters, to be the breadwinner in the family. So I think that he was the ultimate child star destroyed by his own stardom.